more fully, and we cast off some of our individuality. I'd say we catch glimpses of the true, this actual true perfection, where everyone is playing their part. But how is this possible? All of this sounds very suspicious, like a kind of wishful New Age thinking, or a pagan cult, or something a hippie dreamed up. Why are we conditioned to be suspicious of musicians and their power to bring us together? Why don't we join in the dancing? The place of the artist in today's society in late modernity, where everything is quantified and calculated to maximize economic gain, the artist is suspect because we are uncomfortable with leisure. Practicing art looks to many like leisure. The dominant rhetoric about life in North America is about hard work, bootstraps, and the Protestant work ethic. It's our European inheritance. Playing music does not produce readily consumable products, and it is not like a service, like teaching. It doesn't appear to have a 9-to-5 job description. How can one be the early bird when one gets the worm, who gets the worm if one is out playing music all night every night? Additionally, we are uncomfortable with the inability to quantify the value of art generally. Is a painting worth $100, or is it worth $10,000? Did your 4-year-old just make something better than what you saw at a recent show? Does it matter how long it took the artist to make it? What if the art was a performance piece that happened with taxpayers' funding, but no one saw it or liked it? Such confusion breeds mistrust in a world that puts quantifiable objects and economic gain above questions about what music is for. It is into such confusion and speculation that people feel the need and the right to take a stance, to dictate to and make order, much in the same way that children's toys draw the attention of people for evaluation. Will playing with toy guns make your child violent? Will Barbie make your child a feminist or self-loathing? This confusion about where meaning comes from, the object, or from society, is why freedom of expression and the right to dance and party, say, on Big Trib, can be very troubling. Deirdre Atkinson also has a wonderful point about the cost of producing art and how it never really experienced the kinds of reductions in expense that the Industrial Revolution brought about for other workforces.
The arts is an industry that has never been made cheaper by industrialization and such, and the railroad and the introduction of factories and so, the industrial age didn't affect music because it's always going to have the costs. You can't trim it down.
Art doesn't appear to get any more efficient, and the efficiency and speed are what drive the dominant hegemony of our modern society, the dominant discourse. We want efficiency, we want speed. The arts will never be a business that investors can buy stock in. What I'm saying is the arts were never intended to do that anyway. And Hornby Islanders know this. The arts are for making us stronger and for making us more ethical. I understand that this quote is variously reported from being from Leopold I of Belgium, whose son would go to the Congo and commit genocide on a scale that would give some perspective to the Syrian crisis. Or it is a statement from Queen Victoria, for whom we can thank for many advances and regressions. Or the quote may be from the worst days of McCarthyism, when communists always seemed about to infiltrate America. Beware of artists. They mix with all classes of society, and therefore are the most dangerous. I like to imagine that Hornby can sometimes be a place where we test such theories and risk the danger of everyday artistry. One can see Charlie's point about participatory discrepancies here, where a party becomes a great place to hang out with all kinds of people. Because no matter your income, most of us like to dance, and most of us like to know the musicians a little if possible. It is a big part of what brings us here, as Andrea Roots explains, and we sacrifice our careers for it.
I was at the bakery the other night when we played, and there was this woman that I went to bodywork school with like 15, 20 years ago, and she comes here every summer with her family, and so we get to have a little check-in, and she was just remembering the first time that she'd come up here with her husband before she had kids, and they just sort of stumbled upon us playing music at the hall. And they came in and they'd never seen or experienced anything like that, and they were just like blown wide open by it. And you know, and she's got this life. She lives in North Van. She runs this massage school, and she's like, she hates it. She said her kids chant to her, "Mommy, quit your job, Mommy, quit your job," because she just says, "I want to quit my job all the time." I said, "Well, what do you want to do?" She says, "I want to move to Hornby and be a farmer and play music with my kids. I want to learn to play music with my kids."
On Hornby, we are all stuck together, whatever we brought with us, whatever we had. And here we have to work to overcome what separates us. For some people, this is done through music. Here's Dean Samuel.
And there's people within a group who say, well, we're here to play music. This isn't about relationship processing and that sort of thing. And fair and well, you know, well enough, but we all, a lot of us realized that you had to get together and work a few things out. You know, but do have some meetings where you're not playing music, you're working on what's going on, dynamics, human relationship wise, and you had to do that, or well, it just wasn't any fun hanging out in those times, and you could kind of unravel some of the frictions and.
So Hornby can be a whole lot like a big family, and a whole lot like a big band. Most musicians actually have a great deal of insight into how to work in groups, and how to make community work. Tony Wilson told me, and these are the final words of the dissertation, by the way.
And if there's one thing that's kind of unique to this place, because it has become a bit of a resort, or whatever you want to call it, is that you have to interact with a lot of different classes of people. You know, obviously you interact with the people that are, you know, living in what would be considered a pretty poor existence on the island. Which is a lot of people like me and Matt and, you know, and really we're not even poor, really, but you know what I mean, it's whatever you want to call it, a lower caste.
Well, working class, whatever.
Yeah, working class, exactly, working class, and then, yes, there's a bit of a middle class too, which people that work here, that work steady, and they're kind of making a living here. And then, you know, because I mean, I don't really do that, I kind of work part-time, you know, I don't work a lot, right? There's people that work a lot. And then there's the people that it's a vacation place like these guys, you know, and so, you know, everyone has to shop at the same store, they have to go to the same depot, they have to go to the bar, they all have to take the ferry on and off. And so this is the one thing about Hornby, that people that, you know, maybe especially in the city, unless they were, in my case, fans of my music, I wouldn't really be talking to people that live in West Grand or have any kind of relationship with them, so they would never have any exposure, and they would vice versa, you know. So there would be really none of that. So I think, you know, that's the biggest difference, and it's only because it's a small place, it's isolated. When we live on an island, we're all on here, you know, we have to drive off to get off. So I think this is the biggest difference, you know, like in the city, you tend to, your circle of friends and the people you relate to tend to be from a certain common ground. You think the same politically, you know, you kind of do the same things as people I know are kind of artists of some sort, not necessarily everyone, but, and you all kind of have the same mentality, right? Where you're all kind of NDP voters and, you know, all this kind of stuff, right? A Green Party, and there's like a certain similarity, right, of that idealism. Whereas here, that's not the case, you know.
Hornby makes a great study for class and music because people cannot avoid each other. And it's been this way for some time now on the island, as everyone here knows. Hornby's geography is everything. Before the locomotive, most people, the hordes of masses before the birth of the middle class, they didn't travel much beyond 20 miles around their homes for their entire lives. Hornby's culture pushes back against the ease of modern travel. The novels of the 19th century are generally about the super wealthy because they are the people who went places and had adventures. Someone once said to me, after you move to Hornby, you'll spend all your money getting here, and then you won't be able to afford to live here, and then you'll be in the same boat with the rest of us and you can't leave. Friends also made promises to steal our tires, leaving us stuck on the island. And once on Hornby, the consequences of geography aren't merely tactile, but they are cultural, and they determine the makeup of society. How music making and environment come together is a really difficult thing to express, but we need to try, because, as Silas Crow explains,
particularly Hornby Island is like it being a really up and down, huge, busy in the summer and quiet in the winter makes music a big part of a lot of people's like time and lives. Focus and a center during the quiet times, and then time in the summer to let it out and express it. It's huge. It's huge on the island, and really the music that's going on is where the people are. It's going to go. It's important. And it breaks down the walls. I think from what I see is the times that people get to putting down their stuff and communicating with each other is when there's music to center them and get some of the other stuff out of the way. It's just people get together, and whether it's to dance or to talk and communicate, it's when music happens is when people celebrate, and at the same time it's when people delegate and really go over stuff. So I can't really describe it as much more than it brings people together, and when you bring people together in one place, the ideas are there and they start talking about it. And as much as they may have been interacting with each other in everyday things like, hey, how are you? When it comes down, you're like, oh, here's music, there's intention behind it, and especially with words and lyrics that are there and talking about the big picture, it brings people out of place, and that's like, there's a lot of times that's the only time I see people really getting down to what they really care about, rather than just being, hey, how are you doing? Oh, good to see you, peace.
Yeah.
Just togetherness, just bringing people together, it happens.
So I figure I'm going to run about 5 minutes over here. So I don't know about Hornby, but I did grow up in a small village about the size of Hornby. And in many ways I grew up in an environment where talking about money was impolite and uncomfortable. And the thing is, the older I get, the more I think I've come to feel it is generally those with an uncomfortable amount of money that feel least comfortable discussing it. And working in a university, talking about class dynamics, inequality, power, and privilege, this is what one does. We deal with economics in theory and in the immediate. We're constantly discussing the relationships between public funding, tuition, student debt, and the antagonistic relationship between our unions and our administrators. I was in 2 strikes that brought our 50,000 person student body to a halt for a total of 5 months. I want to play a clip from my interview with Rochelle before I conclude that highlights that we have a challenge to face on Hornby.
It's not just, fuzzy warm feelings that make community, and having kitchen parties, you gotta have stuff underneath it, like there's gotta be the infrastructure,
Yeah.
Like, people aren't gonna stay just because it's cool, like that's not enough anymore. you know, and I mean, there's a whole faction of people who came here, you know, in their 20s, and now they're in their mid-40s, and now they're moving off because, you know, reality is caught up. Like they, you know, they wanted to be here, but they didn't buy land when it was $1,000 for this plot.
So I hope I'm not shocking anyone when I suggest that Hornby's culture is at risk of being suffocated by extreme inequality. Before all the kids and the young people leave, or in tandem with them, Hornby's robust reputation as an artist colony will diminish. People will keep coming to Hornby for its natural beauty, but the cultural radicalism and alternatives to individual experience and interests will fade. The burned-over district of upstate New York became the Adirondacks, the playground of the wealthy, and essentially, the economy of the entire region failed as young people were no longer able to move there and make a living. Presently, there are rusting structures and closed-down co-ops and schools of a robust past in the Adirondacks. If we aren't already comfortable talking about inequality on Hornby, we had better get there fast. And we'd better think about it in terms of our art scene, in addition to many other ways. People who come here are ready to be flexible. I'm inspired by our community members, like Peter Cloud Panjoya and B. Wolf Ray, who are not chasing the dollar or retiring on it. We need to change to reproduce our culture.
You know, getting enough money together to be able to take care of your survival needs so you can play and be creative and have fun. And that's how I've lived my life now for 14 years since I've been here. And I'm enjoying that approach. But a lot of my family back east can't understand me, and in some cases have cut me off because I'm not chasing the dollar and putting that first.
And there's a thing about living standards too. It's like, I mean, when you grow up with outdoor biffies and no electricity and no decorative stuff, like we never had anything valuable ever. The concept of owning a valuable thing is like, what? Yeah. You have a cracked ashtray and you use it because it works, kind of thing. Yeah. That my standard of living is really, I don't need much. You know, I don't need much to be comfortable and happy, and I don't feel like it's a step down to live in more marginal circumstances. Not that I am. Actually, I'm living really well in Hornby these days, but we have. Our first few years here was extremely marginal, and for me that was familiar and okay. But for you, that was a whole new world.
Yeah, that was terrifying.
So I want to capture that their first few years here were really difficult. And we're talking about, let's get more people here. Let's, I don't know what, get 500 more people here. Those are going to be some terrifying first few years. What are we going to do? So before concluding, I want to end on a high note from Farron Crow that resonates with what I think Hornby Island has and is obliged to offer the world, suggesting even that we may begin to imagine our community as a place to train people for a different future.
It's a healing place.
It's a healing place because people.
That goes with the cocoon, though.
Yeah.
Once you're healed, you have to do something for the world. You can't just be healed.